Shotgun in one hand, style in the other, Pam Grier stormed into the 1970s and demanded Hollywood make room for a new kind of queen. She wasn't just an actress, she was a revolution. This is the life, career, and legacy of the queen, Miss Pam Grier.
I'll be on it always, always.
Imagine you're a young black girl in the 1970s, you turn on the television or you're going to the movies and you see someone on screen that looks just like you, but not as a maid or a sidekick, as the hero. That woman was Pam Grier, the queen of blaxploitation and one of the most influential black actresses in Hollywood history.
Oh, go on, shoot! I don't want to live anymore! I know. That's the idea. The rest of your boyfriend is still around. And I hope you two live a long time. And then maybe you get to feel what I feel. Death is too easy for you, bitch. I want you to suffer.
Today, we're going to do a deep dive into Pam Grier's life, career, and legacy. Before we get into that, hey queens, welcome back to my queen cave. And if you like deep dives about black history, black culture, and icons that helped shape that culture, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one that we dive into. Pamela Suzette Grier was born on May 26th, 1949 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. From the very beginning, her life was shaped by movement, struggle, and resilience. Her father, Clarence Ransom Grier Jr., was a Chief Master Sergeant and mechanic in the U.S. Air Force. Her mother, Gwendolyn Sylvia, was a hardworking nurse. Working as a black nurse in the 1940s was an uphill battle, as you could expect. As a military brat, Pam moved often. Colorado, North Carolina, England, and beyond. But even with all the moving, one thing stayed the same: the reality of racism in America. One of her earliest memories of discrimination was in Columbus, Ohio. Pam and her mother were waiting for a bus, only to watch multiple buses pass them by without stopping. That was the day she learned from her mother that they were being treated differently because of the color of their skin. Her father's story was just as revealing. Being biracial and white passing, he was at first offered housing at an Air Force base. But when officials discovered he was black, that offer was quickly rescinded. Pam later said that moment broke his spirit, though he remained proud to serve his country. Life wasn't always easy, but Pam found peace in the countryside with her grandparents. On their farm, she learned to fish, grow vegetables, and connect with the land. It became her safe haven away from the busyness and cruelty of the world. But tragedy struck early. At just 6 years old, the same year her and her family moved to Denver, she was sexually assaulted by 3 older boys. The trauma left her withdrawn, disassociating. She would hide in closets when visitors would come to her home, and she was struggling with a stutter when she spoke, making her feel silenced. And yet, Pam's resilience began to shine even then. She found healing and strength through time with her grandparents, and in a surprising moment with one of her uncle's horses, she regained her voice. That experience sparked her lifelong love of animals and symbolized a turning point in reclaiming her strength. In 1958, Pam's family lived in England for a few years. There, she learned martial arts, a skill that would later make her on-screen performances as Coffee and Foxy Brown even more believable. Living on military bases abroad, she also noticed the independence women needed when their husbands were away, something that deeply influenced how she would later navigate Hollywood's male-dominated film industry. When her family finally settled in Denver, her mother managed to buy a house with her nursing salary, but stability was fragile. By the time Pam was 13, her parents divorced, and her aunt and cousins moved in with them. It was crowded, but instead of falling apart, the family pulled together, cleaning, gardening, and fixing the house as a team. During her teenage years, Pam faced another form of rejection, being denied entry into music and horse riding classes, likely because of her race. Instead, she studied piano with a German woman who didn't care about her skin color. That led her to join East High School's gospel choir, Echoes of Youth. Fun fact, 3 of the boys in that same choir later founded the legendary group Earth, Wind, and Fire. Music, performing, and tenacity became Pam's way forward. She was already learning what it meant to turn pain into power, rejection into opportunity, and silence into a voice that demanded to be heard. A woman whose presence on screen wasn't just powerful, it was revolutionary. In the 1970s, she became the face of a movement that challenged Hollywood, confronted stereotypes, and redefined what it meant to be a Black woman on screen. But Pam's story isn't just about movies, it's about survival, courage, and legacy. Pam's journey starts in Denver, Colorado. After graduating high school in 1968, she entered the Miss Colorado Universe pageant, not really for the crown, but to help pay her way through college. That's where a talent agent discovered her and signed her to the Agency for the Performing Arts in Los Angeles. In LA, Pam worked in the agency's office by day and studied acting by night. Then fate would struck again. Producer Roger Corman spotted her and flew her out to the Philippines to star in her first films, Women in Cages and The Big Dollhouse. But success would come at a cost. While filming, she contracted a deadly tropical disease and nearly lost her life, losing her hair and her eyesight for almost a month, and she took almost a whole year to recover. But Pam didn't just come back, she came back blazing. This was the early 70s, the rise of blaxploitation. These films were gritty, low budget, and unapologetically Black. They gave us heroes who looked just like us in a time when Hollywood forced us into the roles of maids, butlers, and victims. But the genre was still complicated. Yes, it centered Black leads, but often in stereotypes as pimps, pushers, and prostitutes. Still, the heart of blaxploitation was rebellion and Black empowerment. It all began with Melvin Van Peebles and his groundbreaking Sweet Sweetback Badass song. He self-funded it, produced it, directed it, and starred in it all on his own. The Black Panther Party endorsed it, pushed the film into success, and sparked a wave of blaxploitation hits such as Shaft, Superfly, and The Black Godfather. The community was still split on it. Some, like NAACP's Junius Griffin, condemned the genre for spreading stereotypes, and he actually coined the phrase blaxploitation by thinking Black people were being exploited in these films. But on the other hand, others saw it as progress. Finally, Black actors as leads and not sidekicks. And right in the middle of this storm came Pam. In 1973, Pam exploded onto the scene with Coffee. She played a fearless nurse turned vigilante who takes down the drug dealers that destroyed her sister's life. Coffee was much more than just entertainment. It was a statement. Here was a Black woman as the hero, not the sidekick and not the victim. Alongside Tamara Dobson and Cleopatra Jones, Pam redefined what a leading lady could be and look like on screen. Her message screamed to Hollywood, "I'm here, I belong, and I'm not shrinking for anyone." And then there was the afro. Pam's afro wasn't just a style, it was a symbol of Black pride, Black beauty, and Black resistance. Every time she stepped on screen, her hair declared freedom from centuries of European beauty standards that Black people were put under for so long. In the 60s and 70s, Black people were rejecting the hot combs and perms forced on us. The afro became a crown, a protest, and a political statement. Activist icons like Angela Davis and Huey P. Newton rocked their afros proudly while fighting against oppression and racism. The afro sent a message to the world, and the message was clear. We are beautiful exactly as we are. When it comes to cinematic icons, Pam Grier is in a league of her own. Her powerful on-screen presence and ability to convey psychological depth, combined with her striking appearance, captivated viewers from the start. Let's break her career down by decade, starting with the 70s. Pam's first roles came in Beyond the Valley of the Dolls in 1970 and Women in Cages in 1971, followed by films like The Big Dollhouse and The Arena. These films shared a similar formula. They were gritty, raw, often set in prisons or arenas, with women breaking free from confinement. And very early on, Pam stood out. She wasn't just there to be watched, she was there to dominate the screen. Then came Coffee in 1973, her breakout role, and it was actually my first introduction to Pam, and the second I saw Coffee, I was instantly hooked on her. Coffee wasn't just another character, she was a force. And what I realized as I was going through Pam's filmography, movies like Foxy Brown, Black Mama, White Mama, and Sheba Baby, they all felt like a different rendition of Coffee. They had the same spunk, same confidence, and same determination, but Pam made each one of them unique in their own way. And listen, Foxy Brown is hands down my favorite Pam Grier film. The plot had me hooked. But what had me really obsessed were the outfits. Every single scene, Pam stepped out in another banging look that had me immediately taking screenshots so I can get some inspo. Pam also starred in Friday Foster, where her investigative skills and her determination helped to bring the enemies to justice. And we cannot forget the honorable mention Scream Blackula Scream alongside Richard Lawson in 1973. It was more of a mix between horror and blaxploitation, just once again proving Hollywood could not box her in. The 80s slowed things down a little for Pam. She stepped into the role as the Dust Witch in Disney's supernatural thriller Something Wicked This Way Comes in 1983, and even dipped into the romance comedy genre with The All-Nighter in 1987. Still, Pam never strayed too far from the action genre. Films like Bad to the Assassin in 1985, The Vindicator in 1986, and Above the Law in 1988 kept her firmly in that tough, commanding role that audiences knew her for. The 90s, that was Pam's renaissance. She appeared in about 20 films, reminding old fans of her brilliance while introducing herself to a new audience. Jackie Brown, which was released in 1997, was her crown jewel of the 90s. Quentin Tarantino, who's actually a huge fan of Pam Grier, made the role specifically for her to pay homage to her legendary character, Foxy Brown, hence the name Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown is my second best Pam Grier film. I was really excited to see how much different her performance would be now that she's a bit older, and it definitely did not disappoint. Her performance as Jackie Brown was much more reserved and mature, but still had that commanding presence. She acts alongside Samuel L. Jackson, and in this movie, he has this really long hair and this really long beard that's braided. I thought that was so funny because I've never seen him with any hair in any other movie. But Pam would continue to show her versatility. She joined the Wild Ensemble cast of Tim Burton's Mars Attacks in 1996, sharing the screen with Jack Nicholson. She also starred in Fakin' Da Funk alongside John Witherspoon, stepped into thriller territory with In Too Deep in 1999 with Omar Epps and LL Cool J, and even saddled up for the Western Posse in 1993. The 90s were Pam's proof that she could adapt, thrive, and continue to outshine. In the 2000s, Pam kept that momentum going, appearing in 17 films. She branched into horror with Bones in 2001 alongside Snoop Dogg. She even took part in family films like Snow Day, showing younger generations her charisma. And then there was The Adventures of Pluto Nash with Eddie Murphy, an eclectic sci-fi comedy where Pam made her mark as Flora Nash. But the role that defined this decade for her wasn't in film, it was television. Pam starred in The L Word, where her performance won her acclaim and many nominations. She became a touchstone for representation in yet another genre, reaching a whole new audience and proving she still had the range. Through the 2010s, Pam stayed booked and busy. She starred in Just Right in 2010 alongside Queen Latifah in Common, dipped into crime dramas like Mafia in 2011, and even flexed her comedic side in Bad Grandmas in 2017. She never stopped working and never stopped showing up. And we finally get to the 2020s and Pam Grier is still on our screens. She appeared in Pet Sematary Bloodlines in 2023, starred in Cinnamon that same year, and she currently holds a reoccurring role in the horror series Them. She can also be seen reflecting on her career in documentaries like Skin, A History of Nudity in the Movies in 2020, and How It Feels to Be Free in 2021. Pam's legacy is not frozen in the past. It's still unfolding decade after decade. In the 1980s, Pam Grier faced the fight of her life. Diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and given only 18 months to live, she defied the odds. Beating the disease not only changed her life, it gave her a new mission: to advocate for prevention, awareness, and access to care for those who needed it most. Out of that fight, Pam became a spokesperson for Dining Out for Life, an organization dedicated to supporting people living with AIDS. She recognized how blessed she had been to have resources at her disposal, and she vowed to be a voice for those who didn't. She also launched the Pam Grier Community Garden and Education Center with the mission of providing organic foods to underserved communities. Her advocacy was so impactful that Langston University awarded her an honorary PhD for her work in organic gardening and sustainable farming. Though she never married or had children, Pam's personal life often made headlines. In the early 70s, she dated Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but turned down his proposal after refusing to convert to Islam. She was also linked to Robert Plant, Wilt Chamberlain, Don Cornelius, Freddie Prinze, whom she nearly married, and comedian Richard Pryor, which, side note, Pam being diagnosed with cancer was possibly connected to Richard and his cocaine issue, because when she went to the doctor for a checkup one day, they found cocaine on her cervix, which means he was possibly putting the cocaine powder on his sausage and then entering inside of her, causing her to have had the diagnosis. So that was not confirmed, but it's a possibility. In the late 90s, she was briefly engaged to music executive Kevin Evans. A few quick fun facts for Pam. She made history as the first Black woman to grace the cover of Miss Magazine in 1975, and she was honored by Ebony as one of the most fascinating women in the 20th century. I'm a sucker for natural beauty tips, and some of Pam's tips include practicing yoga, cutting out all processed foods, and drinking coconut water for overall body health, and fueling your body with probiotics, avocados, and olive oil for more hair growth. Noted. In her autobiography, Foxy, My Life in 3 Acts, Pam described her characters as street-smart women proud of who they were, part of what she called a female cinematic revolution. She gave audiences something they had never seen before: women of color who stood tall, fought back, and demanded respect. Pam goes on to explain, "As a strong woman, I was seen as a threat. People would say, she's taking our jobs, she's castrating men. But I thought, we don't need to walk behind you, we should walk beside you." Though she was nominated for her unforgettable roles in Jackie Brown, The L Word, and Law & Order, many believe Pam was often overlooked and snubbed by an industry not ready to give her the recognition she earned and so rightfully deserved. But her true reward came in her legacy. Pam Grier shattered stereotypes, created space for women of color to be seen as heroes, and became an enduring symbol of strength, beauty, and unshakable resilience. In closing, Pam didn't just star in movies, she redefined them. She didn't just wear fashion, she turned it into a weapon of confidence. She didn't just act, she embodied empowerment. Pam Grier isn't just the queen of blaxploitation. She is the queen of survival, the queen of reinvention, and the queen of unapologetic power. And her legacy reminds us all, especially Black women, that we are not invisible. We are the heroes, we are the fighters, and we are definitely the queens. That is going to conclude our breakdown on the Queen Pam Grier and her life, career, and legacy. If you did like this video, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and like the video. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!